Hello, hello! Continuando a nossa saga do verb to be in the past. All right? Verb to be in the past. Vamos lá. Olha, você pode também falar past tense, né? Tempo passado. Past tense. All right? Muito bem. Então, vamos continuar praticando o past tense do verb to be. Was Bob at the beach? Yes, he was. Was Bob with Tina? No, he wasn't. Why wasn't Bob with Tina? Because he was at the beach, né? Por que que ele não estava com a Tina? Porque ele estava na praia. E a Tina estava no Target. Então, why wasn't Bob with Tina? Because Bob was at the beach. Yes. Então vamos praticar essa conversaçãozinha curta aqui. Why wasn't John with Kathy? Because John was at home. Agora vamos falar dos dois. Why wasn't John with Kathy? Because John was at home and Kathy was at the cattle. Perfect. Why wasn't Peter with Danny and Paul? Aham, prestar atenção no verbo, né? Because Peter was at the football game and Danny and Paul were at the swimming pool, right? Muito bem. Was Danny and Paul with Bob? No, they weren't. Why weren't Danny and Paul with Bob? Perfect, because Danny and Paul were at the swimming pool and Bob was at the beach. Perfect. Why was Morrow with Tina? No, he wasn't. Why wasn't Morrow with Tina? All right, because Morrow was at home and Tina was at Target. Muito bem. Agora, repeat the question. Vamos lá, vamos praticar um pouco a pergunta. Repeat the question. Repete a pergunta. Why wasn't Morrow with Tina? Why? Again, why wasn't Morrow with Tina? Again, why wasn't Morrow with Tina? The answer, why wasn't Morrow with Tina? All right, because Morrow was at home and Tina was at Target. Were Morrow and Beth with Liza? No, they weren't. All right, they weren't. Ou então, they were not. Mesma coisa de was, né? They weren't. Were. Were Morrow and Beth with Liza? No, they weren't. Why weren't Morrow and Beth with Liza? Because Morrow and Beth were at home and Liza was at the supermarket. Certo? Right? Were plural, was singular. All right. Why? Were Danny and Paul with the baby? No, they weren't. Why weren't Danny and Paul with the baby? Perfect, because Danny and Paul was at the swimming pool and the baby was at home with the babysitter. Perfect, perfect. Where was Chang? Chang was at the baseball game. All right. Was Chang with John? No, he wasn't. Why wasn't Chang with John? Fabulous. Because Chang was at the baseball game and John was at home. All right. Was Bob with Tina at the beach? No, he wasn't. Were Bob and Tina at the beach? No, they weren't. Why weren't they at the beach? Because Bob was at the beach and Tina was at Target. Right? Perfect. Muito bem. Agora, uma coisinha a mais que nós vamos incluir nas nossas conversações é a partícula enquanto. Né? A gente pode praticar o enquanto porque cada um estava num lugar. Então, enquanto Bob estava na praia, Tina estava no Target. While. Vamos lá, repeat. While. While. Again, while. While Bob was at the beach, Tina was at Target. Enquanto Bob estava na praia, a Tina estava no Target. Então, where were Bob and Tina? Perfect. While Bob was at the beach, Tina was at Target. Where were John and Kathy? While John was at home, Kathy was at the kettle. Perfect. Where were Peter, Danny, and Paul? Perfect. While Peter was at the football game, Danny and Paul were at the swimming pool. All right. Where were Liza and Chang? While Liza was at the supermarket, Chang was at the baseball game. All right. Where were the bird and the fish? Perfect. While the bird was in the bird cage, the fish was in the fish bowl. Pour them, right? Pour them. Um, was John with her? Was John with her? With her, Kathy. Was John with her? All right, no, he was not with her. Então agora eu falo o nome e você substitui pelo pronome, ok? Was John with Kathy? No, he was not with her. Perfect. Was Bob with Tina? No, he wasn't with her. All right. Was Peter with Liza? No, he wasn't with her. Was Chang with Morrow? No, he wasn't with him. Né? Com ele, with him. Was Peter with Danny and Paul? No, he wasn't with them. Com eles, né? No, he wasn't with them. Okay. Was Peter with the baby? No, he wasn't with him. Him, que a gente sabe que é boy, né? Were Danny and Paul with the baby? No, they weren't with him. They weren't. Ou então they were not, né? Igual was, wasn't, was not. Were Morrow and Beth with Tina? No, they weren't with her. Was Kathy with you and me? No, she wasn't with us. Conosco, né? No, she wasn't with us. Was Peter with you and me? No, he wasn't with us. Were Liza and Chang with you and me? No, they weren't with us. Was John with you? All right, no, he wasn't with me. Was Bob with me? No, he wasn't with you. Se eu tô te perguntando de mim, você vai falar you, né? Was Bob with me? No, he wasn't with you. All right. Were Danny and Paul with Chang? No, they weren't with him. All right. Was Morrow with Tina and Bob? No, he wasn't with them. All right. Where were Danny and Paul? Danny and Paul were at the swimming pool. Were Danny and Paul with Tina? No, they weren't. Why weren't Danny and Paul with Tina? Because Danny and Paul were at the swimming pool and Tina was at Target. Perfect. Where was Chang? Chang was at the baseball game. Was Chang with Peter? No, he wasn't. Why wasn't Chang with Peter? Perfect, because Peter was at the football game and Chang was at the baseball game. Perfect. Agora mais um pouquinho com why, of the while. Where were Bob and Tina? While Bob was at the beach, Tina was at Target. Perfect. Where were Peter, Paul, and John? Perfect. Pode ter um monte de gente nessa pergunta, né? While Peter was at the football game, Paul was at the swimming pool, and John was at home. Tá? Where were Danny, Paul, and Kathy? While Danny and Paul were at the swimming pool, Kathy was at the kettle. Where were Chang, Beth, and Bob? While Chang was at the baseball game, Beth was at home, and Bob was at the beach. Perfect. Acredito que tenha ficado claro, tá? Lógico, precisa praticar mais, porque é muita estrutura, tal. Pratica aí mais um pouco, capricha, assiste de novo o vídeo, repete as perguntas e as respostas para ir acostumando o teu cérebro. E depois volta que tem mais pela frente. See you later, everybody!